Welcome back, everybody, to the Reading by Candlelight book club at Molly's Cottage. I'm here with Mark Mupotsa-Russell, author of The Wolf Who Called Boy, which features in the September crime fiction book box. Welcome, Mark.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
Listeners will remember that Mark has been on the podcast before in August 2024 when his debut novel, The Hit Woman's Guide to Reducing Household Debt, also featured in a book box. But if this is the first time you've encountered Mark, here is some background. Mark lives on Wurundjeri country in the Yarra Ranges with his incredibly stylish and superstar wife and their adorable little boy. His debut, the aforementioned Hit Woman's, because I'm not saying it because it's such a long title, won the 2023 Affirm Press Mentorship Award. Before becoming an author, he was a screenwriter, film reviewer, my favorite thing, a cocktail columnist, and worked in PR and communications in the suicide prevention sector. He has been shortlisted for the Text Prize, won a Screen Development Award, and has had screenplays optioned. Like me, he obsesses over movies, which is what makes him, in my opinion, such a brilliant author. Now, Mark,
Thank you.
you give us a quick spoiler-free pitch of your book.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Wolf Who Cried Boy, I kind of think of it as like a mix of like general big feels fiction with like kind of a thriller. My super short pitch is Emma Donohue's Room on the Run.
Ooh.
But the story is about 6-year-old Henry who has always been told that his mum is a magical star queen who was lured down from the stars and had her magic stolen by the evil Wolf King, and he is hunting them constantly, so they always have to be on the run, always have to be wary. In actual fact, this is all a fiction that his mum has created to keep him safe from their very rich, powerful, abusive, his father, her ex. When they hear that Henry's grandma is sick, they have to make it all the way from Gippsland in Victoria to Brisbane without getting detected. Henry's not scared though. He knows his powers will save them.
I just love it. I loved Henry, and I think that just how he believes his life is this fairy tale, and the story, but really the story is exploring really dark themes like cycles of violence and misogyny and corruption, and but these things must be broken for the children to be safe and free. I love.
Mm.
And can you share the spark or seed that began this amazing story?
Yeah, absolutely. It's unfortunately not a very happy story, but in sort of COVID, in the depths of lockdown, my son was born sort of in lockdown, and my wife's family is in Zimbabwe and South Africa, and we couldn't get over there to basically take him because of the travel bans. And my mother-in-law got very sick, and basically the travel bans got lifted, and we bought our tickets and we were going to fly out on the Thursday, and she passed away on the Tuesday.
Oh,
Um,
that's so sad.
yeah, it was genuinely the worst trip I've ever been on. Like it was 26 hours with like a 9-month-old, and just knowing this exhaustion and horror that we're going into, obviously it was 1,000 times worse for my wife. And so when we got to her sort of family home in Harare, she had to deal with all the admin of grief stuff, like just the organization as well as processing these horrific feelings. So I thought the best thing I could do was go, like, kind of take, our son to a back room and kind of just keep him out from under people's feet and stuff, and just take him out when people wanted to, appreciate him and pinch his cute little cheeks. And basically, he was sort of crawling around on the bed, and I just got this image of this cave and this like young boy sitting in it, and he's surrounded by kind of like pagan and Wiccan charms and tokens and like the sort of things we use to ward off evil in like kind of
Mm.
that mythology and stuff. And I knew that they were fake and that they were designed to keep him in rather than to keep evil out. Um, it all kind of blossomed from there. And the thing that's a bit kind of like maybe embarrassing to admit is that I was 3/4 of the way through writing this before I realized I was writing about a mother and child on this harrowing journey to meet grandma. and it
Oh,
suddenly just became this like much more impactful and emotional thing. It was, yeah.
oh, I'm so sorry.
Oh,
That
here's
like it's such a sad story, but you've taken it and made it into this amazing tale. And both of your books have such brilliant titles. And the main moral, I guess, of the fable, The Boy Who Cried Wolf, is that lies
Mm,
are not believed, even when they tell the truth. And
mm,
that real danger occurs because nobody will help you because of the false alarms that you've raised. And the
mm.
title is such a clever play on this familiar fable. How did you land on it, and what layers of meaning does it hold for you?
Well, I can very gladly agree with you that it's a great title because I didn't come up with it. That's the thing. I was really struggling with this one a little bit. Like we were trying to find the right one, and we, the my working title wasn't really that's not really worth mentioning. I did think at one stage of it being like Big Bad, like just being really simple, fitting in with that childish thing. And it was sort of like a 50-50. And then Laura Franks, one of the editors at Affirm, just said that in a meeting apparently, and people flipped out. And it does really work with because this is a story about kind of um the way we see the world, like every person having a specific perspective and all that sort of stuff like that. The stories we tell ourselves, it's about fairy tales, it's about superhero mythology, um, and very much like lies as well, like who's telling the truth and what truths are okay and stuff like that. So it just kind of fit with that idea as well as that fairy tale idea of wolf in sheep's clothing and all that sort of stuff. It's just immediately kind of yeah, just hits. I think she just did a wonderful job. So I'm always thankful to Laura Franks, basically.
It is, it's a brilliant title. Now, the story is enchanting and highly original, but it's also hauntingly heartbreaking. And Henry's just this beautifully imagined character. He's funny, he's intelligent, but he's equally naive. And I think he will tug on everyone's heartstrings. How did you get his voice so right?
It was really hard because the first thing I ran into is that a 6-year-old could not give a damn about the plot. Like he's not going to tell you what he needs to do, where they are, who's chasing it. Like he needs to just tell you about this really interesting tree he saw and like how the animals function and this new fact that he learnt and the it took me a while to get that comedic kind of aspect of it. It was very naive and everything like that. Because the thing I wanted to do was sort of uh and it is something that I saw in Room. That in Room, there's sort of like a double dynamic going at any one time of sort of you've got the story that the boy is telling. So in my case, it's a superhero story. It's a fairy tale story, and then you're reading into that. Like the reader is understanding the real story based off what his mum is saying, and it's all inferred and implied, and it creates this interesting tension, or I tried to create this interesting tension of like a something that he thinks is just a chance to be brave is suddenly really scary, or it could be the reverse of something that is actually quite innocuous and not a worry. He thinks is this big dramatic thing, and it allows him to like be really hyperbolic and all this sort of stuff like that. The third kind of aspect that I was trying to do that's a little bit harder to manage, and I tried to use it a bit more sparingly, is this sort of meta thing of like uh we know that he's telling these stories to himself because he's loving superheroes, but there are sort of things about superheroes that maybe aren't a great thing to teach our boys. Like the one of the things he says very early is when he's describing what a superhero needs to be. He's saying that like superhero needs to know what's right and do it no matter who says he's wrong. And like that's a wonderful idea in a superhero, all that sort of stuff like that. But it only works if you've got a good moral compass.
Yes.
Like, and if you've got the wrong idea of what's the quote unquote right thing to do, that's just fascism, dictators, tyrants, coercive control. Like it's all those sorts of things. And so that was what I was enjoying playing with, but was incredibly unfun for a very long time.
It would have been. I mean, it's okay if you want to be Superman or Spider-Man, not not so great if you want to be Batman.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, perfect.
yeah.
Yeah.
Some of them are darker than others, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, if people haven't read your debut, they should because it was such a funny, twisted cinematic read, and I loved it. And but your characters often feel complex. They're flawed, but they're sympathetic. Which character in this book surprised you as you were writing?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think probably there's a mother and son farmer couple, like as in a grown-up son. He's in his mid-20s and she's sort of middle-aged in the middle that like I kind of knew where they were going and where they needed to go for the story, but like a big thing that I really try to do in my writing, and it's a headache that I build for myself, but I really try and not cheat anything, and I want to earn every moment, and it can only happen if it happens organically with the other characters interacting and stuff. So I kind of knew where they needed to go, but it's not like a 180 from their normal character, but they do go on a bit of a journey, and like it wasn't an easy sort of thing. So finding the way to do that, it's obviously hard to to talk about this spoiler free,
Yes,
but that
without spoilers, yes.
yeah, that's kind of what I was trying to do. So it did surprise me maybe the path it took, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And did reader response to your debut shape how you approach this one, or did you try to block that out while you were writing it?
Well, it's a little bit of an illusion of how quick I've got this one out, just purely that I kind of had a rough draft of it already
Yeah.
when I got contracted on the first one. It was a little bit there was it is a massive reaction, but it's kind of more to what I was feeling. Like so the main character Olivia of Hit Woman's Guide, I loved her voice in writing in that voice because she's very kind of cynical and borderline nihilistic, and she can say something really quippy and darkly funny about any situation. Um, but I kind of after having been in that headspace for a long time, I wanted to do a goodie. I wanted to be in like this someone who just saw light everywhere. The problem is though that like then narratively I'm like, okay, well, if you're going to be true to it, you got to test that. Like you got to force him to like earn that and really make sure that he does care and he is that person deep down, which means putting them through the ringer a bit.
Now, you're a screenwriter, and like me, you love movies. And when we last spoke about your debut, you talked about the visual quality of the writing.
Mm.
And the Wolf Who Cried Boy is just as cinematic. How do you approach building scenes so vividly on the page?
Thank you. That's a very nice thing to hear, obviously. One of the things I realized, it might have been after we'd done our interview on the first book, but like I realized that I don't just kind of write cinematically and like thinking these big kind of visuals, which is what we often think of cinematically, but like I kind of think in movies in wide shot establishing close up like, and so I think when I'm actually writing the scene it starts to feel that way. This one was an interesting kind of switch a little bit because I really wanted like everything is in Henry's view, and
Yeah.
that immediately means that if you're thinking cinematically it's like the camera is always craning up because it's seeing, but it's also his perspective is so wonder filled and awe filled because he's just this kid who sees magic everywhere, and so it's got to feel like everything is big and dramatic, and the visuals aren't just like everyday humdrum sort of things. Like he sees everything as a movie because he loves movies as well. Like,
Yeah. I know it's gorgeous because he reminded me so much. Our son's 20, they're just about to turn 27. But when he was Henry's age, he spent his entire time in costume. And
yeah.
he played characters all the time. And he answered you in those characters'
Oh, perfect. Yeah.
personalities. And so, but he always knew he was a character. He never
Yeah.
thought he was them. So I remember we went to pick his sister up from school, and this lovely dad saw him all dressed up as Harry Potter and said, "Hello, Harry, how are you?" And Ethan goes, "Don't be so ridiculous. Harry Potter's eyes are green and mine are obviously blue." And I walked off. He was so young. He was
I
only
love the
about
commitment.
4. And and like this dad goes, "I just feel this big right now." And I just feel that, there are kids like Henry out there because my son was like that too. And
Mm,
like
mm.
they just had such great imaginations and they could just fill their lives with stories. And I think
Yeah,
that
yep.
that's such a beautiful thing about the fact that it's like a story inside a story.
Yeah, yep.
I loved that.
Oh, I'm
Did
so
you?
glad.
Oh, he's so cute too. Did your process change at all between the books? Like, could you
It's
wrote them close together?
yeah, it's more that I discovered, like, because I'm a 20 years and 500 rejections writer sort of thing, and like the process I discovered on Hit Woman's Guide, um, just worked for me gangbusters, and it worked in ways that I'd written, I don't know how many manuscripts and how many screenplays beforehand, but like all of them were lacking something very clearly. And Hit Woman's Guide, there was something that I did in the process around the big thing is that I realized really, really honing in on the perspective thing of just having that thing of every character is the hero of the story to themselves, and just making sure that they're bouncing off each other and really being true to that and not um, not making characters just like archetypes for the protagonist to bounce off or something. Like they literally have to be kind of working together, either yeah, together or in opposition. So that I was so happy with having made that breakthrough that I applied it to this one, basically. But
That's good advice too. Now, this novel has such a strong sense of atmosphere. It's almost like film noir. Did you consciously draw on the cinematic influences or genres while you were shaping it?
I think this one was more books based. I was like because I loved I obviously love sort of movies as I said and everything like that. And all of that stuff is in there. It's always in there for me. And I love kind of crime movies and stuff like that. And I love big hearted, big feels and books that kind of mix tragedy and comedy and stuff like that. Like I suppose one thing that really was on my mind, a little bit in Hit Woman's Guide, but definitely in this one I thought about a lot, is I've heard Phoebe Waller-Bridge talk about with Fleabag.
Yeah,
Like she is
amazing.
really, really particular about um that switch of tragedy to comedy. And you can feel that in Fleabag. And I've actually heard her talk about it where in her theater days, like their theater troupe would always have one person not be in the show and sit up the back, and they would watch the audience for the moments that they kind of laughed or cried. And then they created this kind of mini challenge almost for themselves of like how close those moments could be to each other. And I think
Oh,
you really feel that in Fleabag.
yeah.
And because I think it becomes almost a rubber band thing of like if you make someone laugh a lot and then they suddenly see the tragedy, then it hits a lot harder. And the same thing, you can really lift someone very quickly. Like we all see, like when we're really sad and crying, and then that sudden laughter comes, and it just like switches you around. And I love when other people do that to me, other writers, and so it's just something I try to do. Or yeah, I really focused on. But
No, no, you did. You definitely did it.
yeah.
Now, without spoiling too much, there are moments in the book where truth and perception blur. What did you want to explore in that tension, and how did it connect to the book's themes for you?
Yeah, it's very much that idea of us all telling our own stories and believing our own stories, and very much the mythology of it as well, of like the idea of what a superhero is and what
Yeah.
bravery is. Like that's a really important theme for me because I think uh like superhero. superhero bravery is a very specific kind of bravery, and it's very dramatic, and it's very much about, oh, I stand up and I punch the bad guy because I'm a big strong man most of the time, and I save the girl, and nothing is wrong ever again.
Yeah,
And that's not true to our world. I also don't think it's particularly useful bravery. Like in real life, I think real bravery is standing up for something again and again and again and again. And a lot of the time, it's against a system that is just hitting you with admin and bureaucracy and really boring things that just press you down. And at the end of it, if you do succeed, you probably don't get a pat on the back, and no one knows it was you. Like, and that's like that's what a real world bravery I think is. And it's the people who kind of like work in kind of these sectors where they're actually helping people, or on a personal level in a community care kind of thing. They are personally helping the people around them, and they probably aren't getting the round of applause after they punch out the bad guy, because the bad guy is a whole bunch of people, and it's the whole society. Like, so that sort of that idea was kind of in there, that I wanted Henry to he doesn't understand it in that kind of complex way, but I think we start to maybe see how he might be getting a better message through that.
yeah, yeah. No, that's really good. Now, my favorite question: if this novel was adapted for the screen, who would your dream cast be?
Oh,
I
so
have no.
it'd be very hard to cast Henry, obviously, because he'd
Yeah.
have to be very young. I have no idea who that would be. His mum, Lexi, is a particular type. I think like I think any writer who writes kind of like mildly acerbic women who like kind of have like a layer of emotion underneath, but strength as well, probably thinks of Sarah Snook if they're
Oh my
Australian.
God, that's who
Yeah, yeah.
I had. Yes,
But
definitely.
if I was to go like outside the box as well, probably the absolute dream would be Jessie Buckley. I think
Oh,
I
she's so good.
she's so good, and she's so underrated now. Like everyone who is really into movies, I think, is like she is like the one, but she just keeps on getting these maybe bad roles and stuff. I'm fingers crossed that Hamnet, when that comes out, that's going to be her ticket, because that sounds like it's the one. But I think she can do anything. She's
Oh,
astounding.
she's amazing. I
She's
still remember when she did, there was used to be a show on television with Andrew Lloyd Webber, and
oh
she won the first season, and she won the role of playing in Oliver, and she won the role of Nancy. And so they had to
oh
sing,
wow.
like, so every week they had to come in and act and sing, and then they got knocked out. She's an amazing singer.
I had no idea that was her background. That's amazing. Oh, cool.
Yeah, she was really young. Like she was
Yeah.
only about 19 years old and she won. She was absolutely
Mm.
brilliant. She could act everybody and also out sing them. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I
so
just think
no,
she's
but I
got
can see why you say her. Yeah, she's
Yeah, she's got the wonder, but also maybe the like grit as well. Like, she can do anything, I think. But yeah.
yeah. But it would be terribly difficult to for Henry. But then
Mm,
Boy Swallows Universe found that wonderful young man and he was
yeah,
just absolutely brilliant. And that was the first time he'd ever acted.
yeah.
I mean,
Well,
not that
I
this
think
book is
Jacob.
anything like this,
Yeah,
but
I think Jacob Tremblay. It was his first go as well, but it took them 2,000 auditions, 2,000
oh,
kids to find the right ones.
yeah. But I mean, this book is nothing like Boy Swallows Universe, but it also reminds me of
Yes.
like
Oh, great.
like
That's great to hear.
your writing does remind me of Trent Dalton and Marcus Zuzak and people who put children into their books
Mm,
because I think you got the voice right, and that's the hardest bit.
mm, mm.
Yeah.
I think it is. Yeah. It took me a long time anyway.
Now, I write listening to music that I think my characters would like or that suits the scene. Do you write to music? And if so, what's the soundtrack of your book?
Well, it's we I don't write to music anymore. I used to, but because I'm much more chasing around my toddler. I'm sort of like tiny snatches. But I do have playlists like to kind of maybe get me in the mood. Like because
Yeah.
this has a road trip, I actually went on that road trip.
Really? Oh, this is
Yeah.
interesting. Tell me about
Oh
this.
well, it actually added a little bit. I accidentally added a little bit of the thriller aspect to it by myself because I rented a car and didn't get insurance because they wanted to charge me an arm and a leg. And then as soon as I drove away, I was like, I'm going like 2,500 Ks, including through national parks and stuff. Like I'm gonna I'm gonna end up getting charged the whole car. So I was very nervous driving, as well as not sleeping. But I developed a playlist that I would play every morning, and most of it was there's a section where Henry and Lexi are driving, and she starts singing along to songs, and she's teaching him sort of classic mid 2000s kind of songs, mostly. So it's that sort of poppy ones. But there's also some theme songs that I would very nerdily play to myself every time I finished a draft as like a full stop kind of thing that are kind of paired. I did the same thing with Hit Woman's Guide, but in this case, it was Starboy by The Weeknd, just to fit. And Wolves Part 1 and 2 by Bon Iver. Which kind of
Excellent.
matches the vibes, I think. But
I think that there's nothing. One of my proudest moments is when my 2-year-old son started singing along to Blink 182. And
oh,
oh,
you did well. You did.
yeah, I know. I know. He's got very good taste in music. Now, what book is currently on your bedside table?
Well, I had an event with my friend Rhett Davis who just had Arborescence come out last month. So I was rereading that. I'd read that already. And then I'm just about to start The Names, which is
Oh, yes.
the name Florence Knapp, but which everyone is saying is amazing. So I'm very keen. And audiobook wise, I'm also listening to my co reading by candlelight author Ali Parker, Until the Red
Oh,
Leaves Fall, and Stillwater by Tanya Scott, which are
oh,
both
wow.
fantastic. Mm.
That's fabulous. Gosh, you've got so many on the so many. Like I have an upstairs book and a downstairs book.
Mm.
So like if I'm upstairs, I read that book, and if I'm downstairs, I read the other book. So that I don't have to go and I'm really lazy.
I have the thing of like when I'm in promo mode or really deep in a draft, I struggle to read physical books sometimes in more
Yeah.
than tiny snatches. So I do a lot of audiobooks to kind of keep the juices flowing.
Now, what's next for you? Have you started book 3 yet? I mean, no pressure, but
Well, we actually talked about this at an event, but I
Mm.
did have a minor. I wouldn't call it a false start because I had been working on this one, but I was kind of distracted a little bit working on a young adult sci-fi fantasy thing. But my editors have been super keen for this crime trilogy idea that I pitched them a while ago, and that had always been bubbling away, and I'd had written the first draft, sorry, the first chapter. So I've gone back to that and I'm sort of tinkering away at that, trying to get stuff done in between things. So I'm a little bit behind, but I've that one I think I'm excited about, so should hopefully come reasonably quickly. But,
I think it's genius. The thing I love about trilogies is the world building.
mm,
And I just love it, when you immerse yourself in a book and then you get to have another one and
oh.
it's so good.
Meanwhile, the writer, I can only assume, is like just absolutely tearing through, going, "Oh my God, let the second one happen quickly."
Believe it or not, that's time on our interview.
Oh, didn't that fly by?
It did. Thank you all for coming along tonight and watching us live. If you are watching this on YouTube or listening to the podcast, I do hope you've enjoyed this episode. Let us know what you think in the Reading by Candlelight Facebook group or on socials. And I'd like to thank our author, Mark, for chatting with me and for being Reading by Candlelight's September crime thriller book box author.
Oh, thank you for having me, and thank you for everyone who is listening.
It's so good when you get to be on the box in the boxes twice.
Yes.
Wishing everyone happy reading and goodbye until the next Reading by Candlelight book club.